Welcome to Flying Chariots the Rise with your hosts, Dustin and Chrissy. And today we have an awesome guest, Sophia Temperilli. So, Sophia is a little paranormal prodigy. She's been doing this since she was 8 years old. She's been doing paranormal investigating, and she is also known as the ghost host. So, Sophia, I'm so excited to have you here tonight. Tell us more about yourself.
Well, thank you guys so much for having me. So I'm Sophia Temperilli. I started investigating, like you said, when I was 8 years old. My very first ghost tour was on the RMS Queen Mary in Long Beach, California. And I discovered my house was haunted when I was around 9 years old. So I lived in a haunted house my whole life, but we didn't realize it was haunted till like towards the end of our time living there. And then when I was 12, after living in a haunted house, I wanted to know if there was other people out there that, shared these experiences who were my age because I was so young going through something that is so hard to even describe or imagine unless you live through it. So I started the Ghost Host show when I was 12, and now 14 years later, almost, here I am. We just kind of revamped the format, so now it's on like Spotify and everything. So it's been a wild journey over the past 14 years. But that's kind of me in a nutshell. Is like you said, I started really young. People are
Yeah.
like, "Why did you stick with it?" I'm like, "Trauma. I'm trauma bonded at this point." So it's just it's
So
what I
I wanted
do.
to ask you about that too, your haunted house. So I grew up in a haunted house as well. And I wanted to know a little bit more about some of the things you experienced in your house growing up.
Yeah, so I think I had experiences from before I can even remember. My mom would say, and even my grandma can like corroborate this. She said that I would stand with my back against the door into the garage, just completely frozen. And I was at an age where I could walk, but I couldn't really talk. So I couldn't tell them or articulate what I was going through, and I don't remember any of this. And I wouldn't move until my mom actually came up and physically touched me. And so I think I was having experiences and then I think it kind of went away. I would have really bad nightmares when I was younger. So I kind of attribute that to being in the haunted house. And then when I was about 9 years old, we'd been in the paranormal for a year at this point. I was in my parents' bedroom and I just kind of felt like the ceiling, the walls, everything was covered with eyes. That's like the only way I can describe it, was just like feeling like you're being watched everywhere. And then a little bit time passed and I was in my parents' room and I saw a man standing in their closet. And I knew this wasn't a real person because it was kind of like a pictured image in my head. It wasn't something that I saw and was like, yeah, that's a real person. So I told my parents, I'm like, there's a man in your closet. And my dad, who wrote a book for a psychic, said, "You're making this up." And so he didn't believe me at all. And my
Oh,
mom didn't know what to think, but she never wanted to tell me I was wrong. So she just said, okay. And I don't know how much time passed, but my mom was putting on makeup in her vanity area in their bedroom, and she heard three knocks from the inside of their closet door. So my parents grabbed an EVP recorder, and they weren't even asking questions or anything, and they caught a very clear EVP that said, "I'll help you put these lights up." And from there, the activity just like flourished. It was constant. And now this ghost was only focused on women. He definitely wasn't a good ghost. He was creepy, but this wasn't something that, my dad really had any experiences with. But once we realized our house was haunted, a lot of my mom's female friends would say, "Hey, your house always creeped me out," which obviously isn't something people are just gonna run and tell you when your house isn't haunted. So
no.
it's a little bit of hindsight too with the haunted house.
That's so funny. So, I grew up in a haunted house as well.
Hmm.
People said the same thing. They said, "Man, I just feel uncomfortable here." And I'm like, "Yeah, tell me about it." When I walk into a room, I can feel eyes on me. You
Yeah.
feel it. It's heavy.
No, it's so creepy, and I think that's like the strange thing is, just the pieces of us that are programmed from kind of like that survival instinct we're built with that really comes into play with paranormal investigating. When you can feel whether they're living or dead, you can feel someone standing behind you, even though you don't see them, and that really comes into play in the paranormal. For you, what was that like? I mean, did other people experience it, or did your parents also kind of not know what to think?
Yeah, well, actually, my even my parents experienced it. My dad is a huge skeptic, but he would hear footsteps up here upstairs and be like, "Oh, who is that? What do you think that is?" And like he would kind of shrug it off and go to bed, and
Yeah.
we would just be staring up at the ceiling. And then he would
Yeah.
be like, "Oh, this light turned on by itself. There must be something wrong with the wiring or whatever." He's like he's like that type of guy where he just gets angry at stuff. But you can tell when someone's kind of in denial because they're scared,
Mhm.
try to blame it on other things. And sometimes you just can't deny some of the things you're seeing or hearing. So that's how my dad was. My mom was more open. In fact, she went to a psychic, and the psychic said she didn't say anything, really, to the psychic to lead them in any direction. But uh, she said, "Hey, there's something going on in my house." And the psychic said, "Oh,
Mhm.
actually, that is a little boy. His name is Timothy. He died around the age of 12 from the Spanish flu." And like, oh God, I don't remember. All I remember is he was 12, he was young, and he
Mhm.
liked our family because I was the middle child, and I had a little brother and an older sister, and it was the same family setup. So I guess he
Mhm.
came from some other dimension because he liked us. It reminded him of his family. It's so weird how they can go in and out sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, like specifically in my house, I know you said you've listened to some of the shows I've said before, but
Yes.
I've talked about my grandfather, and so my dad was adopted as a baby, and his adoptive father was a paranoid schizophrenic. And he used to guard the Pope in Vatican, Italy, Rome. And so he had a very huge religious background and belief. And I think, obviously there came a point in time where my dad had to leave the house for his own safety. But I think, even though I do believe my grandfather was mentally ill, I think whatever was in that house was kind of messing with him and feeding into his delusions and the religious and biblical sense. And so it's one of those things where it's so hard to know like where the ghost came from or not. Because people say, well, who was it? I have no idea because was the ghost there messing with my grandfather? I don't know. Did it happen during the period of time when there were no records of who came and went in the house because my grandfather was there alone? It's one of those things where it's so hard to figure out kind of their intentions and pinpoint it.
Could it be like hitchhikers when you just walk somewhere that's all fucked up and you bring something home with you?
Well, I mean that's the thing. Well, the weird thing is when my dad was little and he lived in the home, one of the neighbors, I guess, had come up to my grandma and said the house was haunted. My grandma was like, okay, whatever. Because, like, no one knew that. So, like, it was just like a strange thing for someone to say. And then you realize later on the house is haunted. But I mean, even as far back as when my dad was a child, someone had just like randomly said that.
Mm.
So
Oh,
it's like, I don't know. And we were told by a psychic there were multiple spirits in the house. So it's like, was one there before? Did one come later? It's always just kind of a draw on what a guess is.
they open up portals somehow.
Mhm.
So I had this really weird experience where, and everyone in my house can confirm this. We would be downstairs, all downstairs talking, and we would hear a weird sonic boom.
Hmm.
It would be upstairs if we were downstairs, and downstairs if we were upstairs. And we would run downstairs or upstairs, and nothing would be disturbed. The cats were asleep. It sounded almost like a large piece of furniture had been pushed over or something. We think that might have been a portal opening.
Hmm.
Uh, do you have any understanding of these portals or how they get in and out?
Um, I'm not sure. So I recently did an investigation and we were talking about, a portal being on the premises and the person we were with, who has abilities, kind of felt like it maybe was with the land predating the location. I know in my haunted house, someone said that I think they said that there was a portal in the closet, which is where he was. He was in my parents' closet. I don't know why. That seems like a really odd choice, even if you're dead. But like,
Yeah.
'cause I'd watch like a haunting and stuff when I was younger, and my mom would said like, "Oh, I always thought it's strange. I thought it was like made for TV." They would be like, "Oh, it's in the closet. It's in the basement." But
Right.
then you live in a haunted house and he really is in the closet. My mom's like, I don't know why that is a
Right.
thing. And so it's
Okay.
like one of those things where it's so hard to kind of figure out why maybe those smaller spaces are portals or why they're drawn to that. Like, is it a den for them or something like a wolf? I don't know. But it's kind of hard because it's like you wouldn't think that the portals would be there beforehand if they're in a place as specific in
Exactly.
like a small closed
Well, hey,
area.
think about Poltergeist. I think they did
Hmm.
a lot of homework on that movie. So much so they opened up something on that set where like people were
They did.
dying and the
Yes, that
Hmm.
is
fires
interesting.
are getting on set on fire and shit. Really weird shit was happening. But again,
Yeah.
I feel like they did enough homework. But again, the closet is a
Hmm.
main portal where this girl got, this thing
Right.
was able to rip through our dimension to get this girl, And I even like the second Poltergeist where she was psychic and her mother and her grandmother, because her grandmother passed and then she gets a phone call on the toy phone. And she's like, "Oh, hi, grandma, blah blah blah," and then grandma's like dead in the morning and shit. Uh, no, it makes you wonder like was it the powers of the mediums or the psychics will get drawn into more of opening portals and again like the stone tape theory. I don't know if you know much about that. uh it kind
I've
of
heard
gets
of it, but like I get really like even though I've been in this field a long time, I get the terms so mixed up, which is crazy because I have a good memory, but like
sure.
paranormal stuff just like sort of goes over my head. It's like,
Well, the stain really quick is the stone tape theory is if instead of a ghost haunting a
mhm.
certain spot in the house, like say a person died in a room and their soul went through the ceiling or the wall and it left its imprint. So when somebody's living, it kind of triggers something in the room to have this ghost appear, just last messages. Because sometimes you see these ghosts
Uh-huh.
doing exactly the same thing. It's just this interlooping, and it kind of sucks if you think about it. If you're gonna do that for all
Yeah.
eternity, that's kind of like a hell right there. I'm like trapped in my own room that I died in.
Well, to be
Yeah.
honest with you, though, you know what, though? Sophia can confirm this with me.
Sure.
Now, I believe
Hmm.
that certain areas, particularly areas with a large amount of limestone and different things that are absorptive, do have that replaying of different events like a recorder. However, Sophia, I know you're a fan of
Hmm.
live responses because I watched so much of you.
I am.
So you probably like the ghost box, I'm assuming.
Yeah, well, the spirit box, strangely enough, kind of freaks me out because
It's freaky as hell
it just sounds creepy. I love
because
like
it
the
threatens you a
obelisk
lot.
where I don't have all that like background noise to just be
Yeah,
like
yeah.
I feel like I'm in a horror movie because people are like, why don't you like horror movies? No one's trying to kill me. So, I like things that still
It's
make it feel
true.
like no one's trying to kill me.
It's
Um,
true.
but yeah, I like that. I think it's really cool that the DR60 you can play back and skip out all the silence, but
Yeah.
those are like criminally expensive, so I don't have one.
Oh my God, I know.
Um,
Well,
mhm,
yeah, we can get more into that in a moment, but I wanted to say that Sophia knows this as well as I do. When there's a live response, that's not replaying. You are getting a
mhm,
direct response to what you're asking. So, I mean, the stone tape theory, I think, is true to a certain extent.
Sure.
I think there are recordings and there's no actual being
mhm,
or spirit there. And that's separate from these beings that we speak to, Sophia, and you can confirm that are directly responding to us in a completely sensible manner, uh, and a normal response that a human would make.
No, I definitely agree. I'm not saying
Yeah.
like not all souls are trapped in a room. Maybe like
No,
again, like
no.
this, maybe
mhm.
even travel to any certain spots. But
Yeah,
it's just an interesting theory that I just recently heard of. I like to like talk to
I agree
Mhm.
with it though.
any
I agree with
investigator
that
in
theory.
the paranormal of that question because everybody's got different theories and how they take that. But no, I was just very curious.
I agree with that theory though. And I
Hmm.
think Sophia's
Yeah.
probably had some experiences, and like Gettysburg is a good example where we're
Mhm.
getting a lot of replaying of trauma, probably from trauma. I really do think it has to do with trauma.
Well, I think it kind of leaves an imprint too. Like if you grab a door handle and you're using the same one, you're gonna start wearing it down, or like how
Yes.
there's paths in like old cities because that's the path that people walked along. It's so repetitive in life that in death it also becomes repetitive.
Mm.
Just kind of like a wearing down and creating that timestamp. And like you said, like Gettysburg. One show I actually thought did a really interesting example of that was Netflix's Dead Boy Detectives. Yeah. And they had an episode where they basically kind of helped spirits move on. And they had one episode where this house was going to be torn down and it was supposed to make the spirits get stuck in this time loop. And so they were in this time loop trying to break it so that the spirits could be free. And I thought that that was a really interesting example of kind of like how residual energy is just on that loop. And I think one thing is, and I've brought this up to investigators, is how easy it is or isn't to disprove residual energy on the basis that you would have to have sort of a scientific log of like what is causing this loop, or is it happening at a specific time? And being able to prove that's kind of hard since most investigators don't have access to a location to where they're able to see what the variables are that are enacting the loop or what time frame and stuff like that. Like I don't know if anyone's ever seen The Ghost of Mr. Chicken with Don Knotts from like I think the 60s. So that house wasn't actually haunted, but they would always have a certain the person who was faking it would always play a certain thing on a player piano at like 11 p.m. to make it seem like, hey, this is when the activity is starting. And I think you could put that into a real life scenario where it's like, what is the commonalities of the loop?
Oh, that
Wow.
is very interesting.
Yeah,
I wonder
that's
if
awesome.
in the future they're always coming out with some new stuff
Mhm.
for investigations. I wonder what they're going to come up with in the future. I would love to be a fly in the wall. Uh,
Yeah, because I think that's the thing. Like, it's what is residual and then what's just a spirit that's maybe intelligent just doing that. Like, because me, I I'm an introvert. So for me, my loop is going from my bedroom to my living room. And so, like, if I was dead, I might just not be a residual haunting. I might just be lazy still. Because I
Straight up.
would
yeah.
be, and people would be like, wow, this is crazy residual energy. And I'm like, I'm literally right here. Just like, what do you want me to do?
Yeah.
So it's kind of trying to figure out. I would say I almost feel like residual is harder to prove just on the basis
Yes.
that how do you prove that it's looping?
I
Sure,
know.
sure.
Maybe in the future we'll have something for that. I wanted to
Yeah.
ask you about the Queen Mary. Now, I don't know a lot about the Queen Mary. I know that it's a ship in SoCal,
Mhm.
and apparently it's haunted. But do you want to tell me a
Yeah.
little bit more about that? Because that was your first investigation, right?
Yeah, so the Queen Mary first set sail in 1936, and I believe sometime during the 70s is when it docked in Long Beach. But prior to it docking in its now permanent resting place, which is Long Beach, California, it was a luxury liner, bigger than the Titanic. It was like top of the line at the time. It has Art Deco stuff all over. During World War II, it got turned into a courier transport ship called the Gray Ghost. They repainted it, everything. After the war, it went back to a luxury liner until it docked. But during its building, there were deaths, from what I heard. Reportedly, some of the workers actually got welded inside the hole.
Oh God.
And you've had obviously deaths during the war. It carried POWs. Let me think. Oh, it crashed into the Curacao, which was another ship. When the Queen Mary was on its route, it had specific orders do not stop under any circumstances. So it crashed into another boat and it broke in half, and they couldn't stop to rescue these sailors. So they pretty much died from the Queen Mary. And you've had deaths since it's been docked. I believe as recently as like 2012 or 2010, someone actually got drunk, hung off the back of the flagpole, and fell into the water. So it's really steeped in a lot of tragic history. I had even talked to the ship's captain about deaths being reported in the pool area, which is one of its most notoriously haunted areas. And during the 60s or 70s, one of the workers would go to the Turkish baths every single day and go sit in the sauna. And one day he was sitting in the sauna and he actually had a heart attack and died. And he wasn't found until the next day and he was steamed at that point.
Oh,
Oh, damn.
wow. That's
Hmm.
brutal.
Yeah, so that was my my first experience with the Queen Mary. Back in the day, my parents used to watch a show called Sightings, and they had a psychic named Peter James on there. And Peter is one of the first people to interact with a child co sorry, a child ghost on the Queen Mary called Jackie. Now there's no official reporting of her death on the ship, so whether it's someone that wants to revisit a time in their life that they enjoyed, or maybe her death wasn't ever marked, I can't say for sure. But he had interactions with her there. And when I was 8, my parents wanted to do something unusual for their anniversary because I'm not from a usual family. And so,
Nothing wrong with that.
yeah, so they went on the ghost tour, and I got jealous for some reason because probably it's only child syndrome, but who's to say?
Oh.
And so, my parents wrote Peter after their tour and asked if I could go on the next one, which was Peter's final tour. And he said there's over 500 ghosts on the ship. They're all my friends. And that pretty much got me started in the field. We went through the only place I actually remember going because I was 8 is the first class swimming pool in Sir Winston's, but I think we went to other areas. I just don't remember. But I mean, it was a really interesting thing, and it's one of those places where no matter when you go, you can always capture something. And sometimes, I mean, activity is more heightened than others, but like my favorite area on the Queen Mary is the engine room because you can literally sit in there and hear someone talking. You can't understand what they're saying, but you can hear someone talking. And you can be in the propeller box and actually hear someone whistling. And that maybe I would consider more residual energy because it's,
Yeah.
probably a sailor going about his patrols or something whistling. And it's one of those crazy places where you kind of have a little bit of everything there.
Oh my God, that place sounds amazing. I would love to get out there. One of the things you mentioned, because I've
Mhm.
done research on you, is Shadow Man.
Yes.
Said that that really overwhelmed you, the negative energy from this entity. Tell me more about that.
Yeah, so you guys were bringing up portals earlier. There is a portal in the dressing room there, in the first class swimming pool area. And when you walk in there, I mean, you can feel very overwhelmed. It makes you feel dizzy, nauseous, different things. So whether or not the Shadow Man came through a portal or if he was there, I don't know. But the Shadow Man from when I was younger, he would always hang out in the doorway of the dressing room, just lurking. He was creepy. He's
Hmm.
a Shadow Man. What do you expect?
What do you
Um,
expect, right?
like,
Yeah.
but he kind of
Yeah.
just always stayed in his area, was always the dressing rooms. And obviously, like, even though I'm a paranormal investigator, I'm not super inclined to want to feel nauseous or dizzy.
Right.
That's just a personal opinion. People who are investigators may seek that out. Me, like, well, I don't want to feel that normally.
No, I don't
So,
either.
It's like a
it's,
peeping Tom vibe.
at a certain
It
point, I would
does. It does
stop.
sound like he's a peeping Tom.
At a certain point, I would like stop going into the dressing rooms because why am I gonna forcibly make myself dizzy? Like, there's no point. But he would always just kind of hang out in there, and it was fine. It was whatever. I just didn't care because he stayed to himself, just being lurky and annoyed at everyone. And the night I filmed with Ghost Adventures, it was the first time that I'd been in the pool area. And typically, and I know you said you haven't been there, it has low lighting. Always there's lights on. It's creepy in there. Genuinely, I can't imagine it ever not being creepy. So it's weird that it was like designed to be opulent because it's like, when were you not creepy? And so it genuinely felt like the darkness made the Shadow Man more powerful, and I had never experienced him like that because, like I said, he was pretty contained toward the dressing room. But I could feel him in multiple areas at once, which I can't explain. Like it sounds crazy because it is crazy, but he was so overbearing and intense. And my parents were with me when we filmed, and my mom was off camera because she didn't want to be on camera, and she was sitting in the corner, I think at the upper part of the stairs. And so it's a two-story thing. You have the pool level and then you have the stair level. And Zach was up filming on the right-hand side balcony, and he had a ghost run at him, and my mom said she could actually hear the footsteps. And that was one of the areas I was seeing the Shadow Man, which is crazy because like how do you see a shadow in the dark? I don't know. Um, and he was so powerful that night, and I wanted to say like this is the Shadow Man because it's, some spirit that I was familiar with. But every time I wanted to say that, I felt like I was gonna cry. It was like he was kind of oppressing me and not allowing me to communicate that. But every place that I was feeling him is where they were getting activity.
So you are growing sensitive. The more you visit the Shadow Man, you're growing sensitive to his presence.
Yeah, I mean, I've always been like a sensitive. I would say like if a spirit wants me to know it's there, I will. I'm not psychic. I'm more like a fire detector, pretty useless upon telling you something's there, which is fine by me because I don't I know a lot of psychics. I don't want that. But he was really intense. And then the last time I was in the pool area, like genuinely the last time, I think it was so I filmed Ghost Adventures in June of 2014. I was 15 and it was on my final day of freshman year. And I think a few months later, um, Erin's sister Amy came out because we're friends with her and she stayed with us. And we were going through the pool area and everything and walking around. And I genuinely felt so anxious. I felt like if we stayed, something bad was going to happen. Now, I can't say if something would or would not have, but it just still felt like he kind of had that control over my emotions. And I genuinely have not been back in the pool area since because I've been there a bunch. I don't really need to deal with that at this point in my life.
Wow.
Do
Yeah.
other people sense him or
Yes.
really?
Yeah. Some people have called him grumpy, but there's uh you can hear him like the night we filmed with Ghost Adventures, you hear such incredibly clear audio. I don't know if it's on the episode or not because I haven't seen it in a really long time, but I mean, it was so clear. It was so deep and gruff of a voice, and he was literally cursing at all of us, which was like awesome to pick up, but like it was he was not happy. You could
Yeah.
tell, and I fully think that was the Shadow Man because the anger is palpable in him just by the feeling. And when you get that, and other people have caught evidence that's similar of like an angry spirit that just doesn't want people there. I think some of it has been caught in the boiler room, which is also dark. So I'm sure he would love to lurk there. That sounds like a great place for him. So like, but yeah, he's definitely been seen by other people and picked up on. But he just I like don't know where he came from. I like genuinely have no idea.
That's kind of scary as fuck. Because then you think, what's their intention? Is like, and it makes you seem like you're running into a lot of negative spirits and entities. You know what I'm saying? Like, what's that about? And are you a
Yeah.
beacon to some of that craziness? Like, let's fuck with this
You
girl
know what?
because
I
she's
ask
a
myself
seer.
the same question. Like, most of the spirits I've seen, other than the one in my house, are all shadow people, and I'm like, that's was such a wonderful
Really?
ability. Yeah.
Oh
Like,
my God.
we even had psychics at my house, and so, he was messing with them, the camera
Wow.
crew, and we were all standing outside my property, and I actually saw the spirit as a shadow, just like kind of like mockingly looking at us. And it was the first time I had seen him off of the property, like outside of the house. And yeah, he was a shadow person. So that anytime I see something more in real time, it's a shadow person. And I just think, wow, how did I get so lucky?
No,
It's
for
good.
real though. I would love to see a shadow person. How did you get so lucky? I have never seen
It sounds kind of terrifying.
I have never
Chrissy's
seen a
got
shadow
shadows already.
person. Never. I want to see a shadow person.
Oh, I guess they just like me, so I can just come around me, I guess. I mean,
She's
I don't know. I just
real predator shadows are
don't see them
lurking.
all the time. And they're just like, it's just wow, oh my God. People get to see
Well,
like actual people. I just get to see outlines. It's like, wow, oh my God. Am I like a silent film psychic or something? Like what is this?
I've wondered about shadow people because people
Mhm.
speculate about what they are, if they're really spirits that have passed on or something more negative. People tend to associate them with negativity.
Yeah. Well, when I was younger, I remember I was on a radio show and I had said, I think it's just a spirit that's trying to manifest itself and using less energy. But then I realized as I was older, I've never actually met one that was nice. So I was like, oh, it's just delusional. And so, I mean, there might be nice shadow people. That theory could still stand, that it's just easier in to use less energy and be more of a mass than a
Sure.
defined feature. Or they could just like doing that because it's much creepier and they are terrible.
Want to scare people, maybe. They're
Yeah.
the more
He
negative
wants to
people
touch
that come
himself one more time.
It's just like
out.
I'm just like This is a wonderful thing. I've seen two. I think it's the Shadow Man and then the one at my house. It might be three, but I think it's two. So luckily it's not constant. But they both were people that like not super interested in having like a conversation with
Right.
because you were creepy and foreboding and
And they make
just
you feel sick
yeah.
to your stomach. And when they do speak, they're cursing at you and stuff. Like it just
Well,
seems like they're
And
in
Chrissy,
almost.
and you wanted this? You're like, oh,
well,
you're
I
no,
do. I
lucky.
okay.
want all the
I want
experiences,
this to happen to
Dustin.
me.
Don't you want to be abducted by a UFO? I mean, come
Not,
on.
well, not necessarily, unless they're beautiful blonde haired women. Maybe, yeah.
Jesus, Dustin.
Oh,
I
shit.
mean, the EVP was pretty cool though on the Queen Mary. So that one was pretty fun because like, when you get something that clear and
Yeah, oh my
like
God. Yeah.
upset or
Sure,
not, like,
sure.
hey, good on you. You really came through and told us what you didn't
I
like.
love it. I love getting cursed at by spirits. When I used to investigate at the Shanley Hotel in Napanoch, and it's just a little hotel, but it's been
Mhm.
on a lot of different shows and stuff. It's very haunted. I've gotten some of my clearest, loudest EVPs there.
Oh,
But
cool.
I at the top level, because I was friends with some paranormal investigators in the area at the time. This was like 10 years ago. At the
Mhm.
top level, the place is like kind of dilapidated a bit. So most people weren't allowed up there, but we were. And we got to speak with a spirit named Joe, who supposedly
Mhm.
was part of the Irish mob or something. And he's an angry guy. He doesn't like you sitting in his chair. So, sometimes to instigate people to sit in a chair or whatever, and you get cursed at. It's awesome. I love it.
Okay, like I get him a little bit. I don't think I'd want someone sitting in my chair either. Like I get it. If you got a favorite chair, you have a favorite chair. But also, technically, you could share, Joe. Like,
Right,
both sit there, technically. So
right.
it's like,
Because he doesn't actually have a butt to sit there. So he can share.
yeah, sharing is caring, Joe. Because sometimes that could be the only chair in the building. And guess what? I don't like standing. Yeah,
Yeah,
did an
it's
investigation on the Queen Mary, and everyone was standing around. I found like a little like rope thing where they would tie the rope off, and I sat on it. Like, yes, you move around in investigations, but if I'm not, I don't need to be uncomfortable. I'm
yeah,
like that TikTok audio. It's
same.
like I'm too old to be uncomfortable at this point. Like, it's like, no.
I wanted to ask you about your paranormal experiences seem to make you a little bit more sensitive, or I don't know if psychic is the right
Mhm.
word, or yeah, they probably increase your psychic abilities. Would you say so, Sophia? It sounds like they do.
I would say yes and no. For me, it's made
Yeah.
me like slightly more closed off. So I feel like that's a me
Okay.
problem because I feel like most of my experiences that are really crazy happen when I'm being like a normal person in a haunted location. Because if I'm investigating, I feel like I'm more blocked off because of the trauma of living in a haunted house. But then I remember one time, this has like nothing to do with paranormal activity, but I used to have dreams when I was younger that would come true. And one time I had a dream I was in a hotel and it was a nice hotel. It wasn't like dilapidated and it was empty. And so I was like, well, cool, I'll just walk around. Because what else are you gonna do if you're in a dream hotel? And it had a turtle pond and everything. And I love animals, so I was very excited about the turtle pond. And a few
Oh.
years later,
The
a few
turtle
years
pond.
later, where we were driving to my aunt's house and we stopped off to get something to eat. I think it's like a Marriott. And it was the exact hotel down to the turtle pond. And they had really good crab
Oh.
cakes. And so I just thought, like, I was like, well, that's
Side
useful. If I
note.
if I dream up places with good food, then I'll take that. Now that's a psychic ability I love.
Yeah.
So it's just like a weird thing. It's like a give and take. Like, I think the spirits know somewhat that like I can understand them and see them better than most people. But then I'm also like a little bit when I'm on investigations, I'm kind of like that Drake meme where I'm just like, no,
Yeah.
already been traumatized. I gotta have like a little bit of a barrier there.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, the trauma probably hurts you a little bit, but I mean, you can't really help
Mhm.
growing more psychically attuned to some of these things. If you're there present all the time,
Mhm.
sensing and listening, you're gonna develop those skills. There's no way around it. I know that the Shadow Man was very negative for you. But are there any
Mhm.
other negative spirits that have haunted you?
Just the one in my haunted house. He was just like a creep. Like I said, he stalked women. He watched me while I sleep. He's really my
God.
trauma. He's like
Oh
genuinely my trauma. But like I can't do anything but like make jokes about it because like when I was younger, and I would talk about it, I remember I was on a radio show and it would be really hard for me to talk about because it's such a gross feeling to have like a guy watching you every single second, no matter what you're doing, and you're such a young child. It's so much attention that you just don't want, that it's really unnerving. And so when I would talk about it or my mom would bring it up, it made me very uncomfortable. And I was on a radio show once and I was talking about it, and he's like, "You look like you're gonna cry." I did want to cry. It was really hard, but through the years of talking about it, it's become a lot easier to share my experiences. And that's kind of like one thing I and not that I like talking about it, but it's good to talk about because it's helped me, I guess, deal with it and for it to become easier to cope with. And also other people have these experiences, and I think talking about the mental health and the after effects of living in a haunted house is so important because my mom has seen what I deal with on a day-to-day basis from it. And she's like, look, if you have one platform in the paranormal, I think that's one thing you should talk about because it's so real for you every single day. And so for me, it's just like it's hard, but I'm not the only one who deals with it or has dealt with it. And so that's why it's important to talk about. And it's not so hard anymore.
Oh,
Jesus. Is this guy named
that's
Beetlejuice?
he sounds
Jesus.
kind of like Beetlejuice.
He's like, this
No,
motherfucker wants to
That's
marry
so
you.
sweet. And that explains why you don't like horror movies.
that
Yeah,
you
'cause
like.
I saw
Shit.
that you don't like horror movies and you've literally lived one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm like I've already been scared enough with some
Yeah.
like people are like, let's go to Not Scary Farm. I'm like, let's not.
Yeah.
So good, dude. Like, yeah, no, thanks. I've already had that. Like, I don't need to deal with it again. But horror
Sure.
games, top notch. Love it. Excellent work. So, just
Yeah.
Right, because you have all the control.
yeah, it's
Yeah,
great.
and you don't have any jump scares or anything like that.
Yeah. Well, the
Well, actually,
real
that's not true.
I know you're around the corner.
yeah, so I mean, it's definitely a thing. And well, my animals experienced it too. I had a pug
Really?
and she would see the ghost and she would bark like violently down the hallway where
Whoa.
he would be. And one time my mom was home alone. I was at school and she heard our pug barking down the hallway, Lucy. And so she grabbed a recorder and she caught a voice. And so this was also something not only affecting women, my mom was being watched while she slept. But also it was affecting our animals. Now my pug, she was really angry. She was a pug, so I don't think she was scared. That was
You're
just
so
like
cute.
you just she was Regina George in a pug. So I think she
Oh,
was
little flat
irritated.
face. I love it.
Oh,
Yeah, she was
Yeah.
wonderful. She was great.
Yeah.
And so she was our psychic pug, and I had diamond doves in my bedroom, and literally anytime the ghost would come in there, they would literally bounce off the sides of the cage, like just freaking out. So whatever it was even disturbed the animals. I don't know what they were seeing or feeling, but it was like just, I mean, besides the pug, she didn't care. She was very angry. So it was really affecting them in a way too. So it was just like one of those things where we don't know what was there. And I'm just so thankful that when I moved, it stayed.
Sure. Yeah, I know that animals can see at a different frequency. And that's why I like dogs and
Mhm.
cats, especially, can see
yeah.
spirits and know when death is about to lurk. Uh,
Well,
yeah.
yeah, they can. All of my animals used to
Mhm.
watch the same invisible thing around, just rolling around my room. And I couldn't see a thing, but they all saw something. That's how you know the animals, they can see it, orbs or whatever.
Mhm. I was
Yeah,
gonna
it's incredible.
I was gonna ask you,
Yeah.
what do you think about psychic mediums? Do you know
Oh
much
my
about
God.
them? Are you
Yeah, I do. I love them. I have to say, I'm like, well, I started young, so I and most of the stuff in my childhood's unusual. But I grew up around psychics, so I know so many amazing psychics. A lot of them are like family at this point, and it's so incredible to this day just to see them work and see them pick up on stuff. in some ways I'm desensitized to it because I grew up around them, so it's kind of
Well,
normal.
I
But
meant to say physical mediums. Did I say psychic mediums? I meant
I
yes.
thought
physical
so.
psychic
Yeah.
mediums. Yeah, I'm sorry. I meant physical psychic mediums. You ever seen any of those people do anything?
I like the ectoplasm.
Yeah, you ever heard of
Oh,
people doing ectoplasm? Because we actually gonna have
no.
a guy that I interviewed a while back, but he's very famous in Europe, and he
Hmm.
travels all around the world doing these just demonstrations of he gets in these like into a I don't know
He's
trance
gonna
with
do it for us?
I don't know. Hopefully that'd be cool because this guy can he has people around him and he's got videos on YouTube. I could send you some. And
Yeah, for
you see
sure.
this ectoplasm comes out of his mouth and it actually goes on the floor and goes all crazy. And there's people around just circle around him like, what the fuck is this? That's it. And it disappears.
Yeah,
And
I haven't experienced that, so that would definitely be a new one if
yeah,
I
and there's
would
another
try
guy, and the same,
that.
and he also he has jewels and crystals come shooting out of his eyeballs, like not just one or two, but like just 20 or 40. He's just crying crystals and shit.
I
Yeah,
saw
he's
any of my psychic friends do that, I'd be like very concerned. I would be like, we need to call an
Yeah.
exorcist. So no, I
uh,
have not experienced anyone
and the
doing
way
that.
and the
Skip the
way he
hospital,
talks
straight to
too,
the exorcist.
and his the way he talks like an old mystic from
Hmm.
like the 1400s. You know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
straight up, let me
If
talk
I
like a
saw,
wizard. And then, like this, no, it's like, whoa,
I
what the
can't
fuck is
wait.
this guy? No, this guy is a trip. I was like, especially when he's talking more about the ectoplasm. But no, I was just curious if you interacted with anybody who claims he could do that. A lot of people say it's fake. This guy made a name for himself because he
Mhm.
does it in front of a live audience and he has people anticipating with him. Like he levitates tables too. And like he
He
has everybody
That's
levitates. You
crazy.
didn't tell me that.
yeah, dude, I should show you these videos he's got. He's got people around the table and he's just holding up
He's like, you're
their
holding out
hands.
on me.
No, right? I hold the good stuff out on Chrissy later
Oh, I'm
on because
so
you just
excited.
get her, yeah, get all excited. But no, yeah, very amazing shit. Again, there's a lot of skeptics about oh, this is all fake and stuff like that. But again, I think anything is possible with all this extraterrestrial stuff,
Hmm.
paranormal stuff, people who can harness this stuff. And there's been like he's not the only one throughout history that could do the ectoplasm. I actually got some pictures of some old pictures of people doing it.
Yeah, if I saw any of my psychic friends do that, I would be like, we need an exorcist. Do you have stigmata? Like, I don't know what's going on.
Yeah, that's terrifying.
Yeah, here like here's two women doing it.
Oh yeah. Are those Victorian or
I'm
I don't
guessing
look
this
good.
is yeah, it looks about like the 1920s or something like that. But yeah, this one's guy's coming out of his nose.
yeah, that's definitely really interesting. That one looks like it could be the 30s or 40s maybe. I don't know.
Yeah. But again, just these psychics that claim they can
Hmm.
harness the and I don't understand what the ectoplasm is. Is it like a
I don't either.
almost like a thick, smoky liquid? And it kind of, and it
Yeah.
dissipates when it's on the ground. It's like going like a snake. Like it's got its head up like, and it just disappears. Very gnarly.
Yeah, that's super crazy. No, I have not had anyone do that. I don't think I would be
Well,
like, do
maybe
I
if you
have to
ever in the
clean it? Does
future
it
if we get him
dissipate?
on,
Like I would
we
I
be
should,
guess it
like,
dissipates. I don't
like
yeah,
know.
we
I
should
would
get all four of us to talk. That'd be great.
Oh
And you can
yeah, that
actually
would be
see this guy. He's
interesting.
like, oh, hold on, good. Crystals flying out.
be like, do you have to clean that up after? I'd be like, how
Yeah,
like
that
the
is a good
actual
question.
physical logistics of that because I wouldn't want if I were him, I wouldn't want to clean up after
Oh,
that if it leaves
No,
like
straight up.
gross.
residue. I'd be like, what do you use like
The
Clorox?
ectoplasm just disappears by itself. That's
Supposedly it
weird.
Fabuloso?
just dissipates,
Yeah, it
which
dissipates.
adds to the mystery. I'm
Yeah.
That's
very,
weird.
very
So it's like again, like, is they using their body to harness
Mhm.
the soul or whatever
mm.
paranormal? I don't know, like to get that full form again, like that shadow man. He must be using so much strength to show himself in a threshold of a door just staring at you, saying, when are you gonna go to sleep?
He's just a great guy. We do have something mutual in common. We don't like each other, which I
Yeah.
feel like is such good common ground for us that we can just
Yes.
like stand on that and be good.
Cool.
But when you were talking about the ghost in my house too, you guys were saying Beetlejuice. I actually like Beetlejuice. He seems a little bit more fun. The movie that always freaked me out when I was younger, and I think it's because it reminded me of the guy, is Practical Magic. The like looming boyfriend, I think is more along the lines of like the creepy loominess that that ghost had.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That does sound,
Beetlejuice seemed a little more fun. I
yeah,
mean,
no,
he did try
he's
to
like
force
fun.
Lydia into marriage, but you know, he had like a nice
He
suit.
was a
He was,
horny ghost.
yeah, I mean, I don't think I would want to deal with him either, but he did just like, you
No,
know, the sandworm seemed pretty cool.
Yeah, yeah.
They
there
had
are
like
cool
that nice
aspects to him. Yeah.
desert.
I like the second one with Bob.
I haven't seen that. Well, my little cousin's like, we're
Oh,
gonna watch it together. Don't watch it without me. And I'm like, fine. And then she watched it on a plane, and I still haven't seen it. So, you know,
oh
I'm just
yeah.
like, I'm
Well, I'm not
waiting
gonna
for
give
you.
anything away.
I'm
Yes,
waiting
it's
for
great.
you.
It's good.
I'm not
It's
gonna break that promise. You did, but I'm still gonna hold it.
good.
I'm gonna
Hey,
let her get me
Sophia,
over.
I have a question. So, what is your most compelling evidence that you've gotten on an investigation that you think even the skeptics can't argue?
Oh my gosh. It's so hard because I feel like skeptics can argue
I know
anything.
they
They're
will
like
argue anything.
they're like lawyers. I would say definitely probably the EVP in my old house. But it's so clear. I feel like someone would say that's someone talking. But it's like insanely clear. I have it on my phone. I can send
Oh
it
my
to you
God.
if you want.
Yes, I
I
would
could try
love to
playing it. I
hear
don't know
it.
if I could play it
It
into.
might work. Yeah, try playing.
Yeah, you could share it on I can't share it on my
Let
side
me see.
because I have an iPad.
Well, it's not on the computer. Let me see. I have it. I just like don't keep things very organized.
It's
It's
all
my
right.
fault.
No.
But
But
the EVPs that are whispers never excite me. I like a nice, clear, crisp EVP. That's the only thing that excites me. Whispers don't excite me.
well, this is a whisper,
But
but
it's
it
probably a very clear. I mean,
yeah,
yeah.
here I have it. I'll play it with just not the rest of the audio so you can hear it.
Sure.
Oh, that's not very clear on that. Let me see if I can send it to Dustin. There you go. Okay, I just sent that because I feel like you'll I was like, that's not clear at all. I hate when that happens when you play EVPs and then
There we go. There we
it's
go.
like not clear.
Playing. Oh, I gotta turn up the volume, maybe. Sorry. Holy shit. I can hear it. That's crazy.
Yeah, he says
I,
I'll help you put these lights up, and it's very clear, like
Yeah, I
probably
heard
when you
a
have
voice.
headphones and stuff. But he we had like my mom had this ottoman in her room, and she had this ceiling light that she didn't know how to we didn't know how to put up, so it was sitting there for a while. And that was the first thing he said. That was really what sparked the activity. And we have one too that is more of a whisper, but it says, "Who are you?" When my mom was doing an EVP session, but it's so clear. And they're like, even though they're whispers, they're class A EVPs. And that was
Yeah, yeah.
in our own house. And it was right off the bat. Recently I did an investigation in Massachusetts and we were asking questions and I feel like a skeptic would probably say you could manipulate it, but we had the dead bell and it was going off and literally like responding. Every time we said the person's name, it would like hit one after the other. And so it was really incredible evidence to have happened so fast and so palpable. Another one, which again, skeptics can argue anything. So,
Yep.
I was not investigating, but I was hanging out with my friend at the David Omen house, and we were just sitting on the third floor, which is actually his lowest floor. And we had the Ghost Radar app on, which I know people are unsure of apps, but literally the word pig popped up on the Ghost Radar. And for those who don't know, David Omen's house is about 200 feet from where the Manson murders took place. And that is what the Manson family wrote in blood on the doors was pig.
Ooh.
So that was really weird because we weren't asking questions or anything, and I had never gotten that word before or since on the Ghost Radar. And I closed the app after that because I was like, I don't know who's
Yeah,
writing this, and I don't
that
want
could
to
be
talk
some
to
really
any of
negative
you.
energy.
But it was crazy because I've never had something just immediately pop up like that. Like the ghost radar will say random words. It's like an obelisk,
Yeah, yeah.
sometimes you
I've
have to put stuff together, but pig was so specific to that
that
area that it was crazy.
that's very specific. I mean, so I wanted to ask you about the ghost apps because I think
Hmm.
yeah, I think it's just called Ghost App. I have an app on my phone, but it's got different things like a seer, and it's got the, obvious type of ghost box. It's got a ghost box essentially, but I like how clear it is as opposed
Hmm.
to the radio ghost box that you get a lot of static and it's
Yeah.
very difficult for me to hear. Maybe my hearing's just not the greatest, but it's so low.
Well,
And
they're
it's
they're so quick too that when you hear the words, it's like trying
yes,
to figure out what was even just said.
exactly. But that's why I like the apps. And I find that the apps are giving responses similar
Hmm.
to a ghost box, and they're very relevant to what I'm asking too. So it
Yeah.
see a difference.
Well, I mean, it's all technology. I mean, I'm not the most techie person in the paranormal because, like, I'm just not great at that stuff. My grandmother thinks I can run any piece of technology in the world. I think she thinks I could probably program NASA. I absolutely can't. And so but it's all tech. I think they probably can be manipulated in similar ways. And I haven't used really any apps besides Ghost Radar, but I have always gotten really good responses on the Ghost Radar app. I personally like it. They've like infiltrated it with ads, even the paid version, but it's I feel like, a lot of ghost hunting equipment costs a lot of money, and I think there's ways for new investigators to go around that. Use, a ghost radar app or, get a cheap recorder because sometimes those work really
Right.
good too. And so I think apps are good for, you know, making the paranormal more accessible to people.
Oh, definitely. And, oh, it's called Ghost Tube, actually. Ghost Tube.
Mhm.
I did have to pay for a yearly membership, but I find it to be really reliable. And I get direct answers that are clear and crisp and live, and they're in relation to what I'm talking about. So, I'm very happy with the apps, some of my
Mhm.
best EVPs have been on just a cheap $15 recorder.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
No, that's how it is. I mean, the ghosts aren't gonna look at a piece of equipment and be like, wow, that was $1,000.
yeah.
That's what I'm gonna walk into. They're just
Yeah.
gonna go for whatever works the best or is easiest. And I was recently talking to someone on my show who specializes in specifically vocal communication with spirits, and he said part of the reason, the older devices work better is because the parts were made better and not as cheaply. And I think sometimes on the cheaper equipment too, it may not be so condensed that it's cutting stuff out because he was saying they had broader frequency ranges than newer stuff. So, the cheap stuff works just fine and it's not necessary to have it all. And I think the apps have their place in allowing more people to go out and do what they love without feeling like they have to go bankrupt.
Absolutely. I totally
Well
agree.
said. Yeah.
Uh,
Well, hey, on that note, I think we're wrapped it up to here for an
oh, we
hour.
are. Yeah, we're at an hour.
But hey,
Went
that
by
was
fast.
yeah, it did.
Yeah, it did go
Well,
by
we're
fast.
definitely gonna have you back
Oh
because
my
there's so
God, for
much to
sure.
go through with you and
Yes.
future stuff, and maybe have a big group chat with other awesome
Yeah,
mediums and
That'll
ghosts.
be fun. Yeah.
Yeah, really cool.
for sure.
Well,
And I won't have to reschedule. I promise I will try not to get hugs again.
well, hey, let us know where we have our audience can reach
Mhm.
you and find your stuff, and yeah, go ahead right now and let us know where we can find you.
Yeah, so I'm having a website made right now, so it should make things a little bit easier. So in a couple weeks, there'll be sophiatemperelli.com. But until then, you can follow my show, the Ghost Host Sophia Temperelli on Facebook, at Ghost Host Show on Twitter, Instagram at Sophia Temperelli, Twitter at Sophia Temperelli with one L. My radio show is now on Spotify, iHeartRadio, and Apple Podcasts, the Ghost Host Sophia Temperelli. You can find some of our archive shows from prior years on YouTube, the Ghost Host Sophia Temperelli. And yeah, my show is every Saturday. We have a new guest, and it's basically a standard interview format. So I hope you guys check it out and enjoy it. And yeah, I'm working on some stuff, but it's in the works. So hopefully I'll be able to talk about that more soon.
Yeah. Well, thank you again. That was so
Oh,
awesome.
yeah. Thank you so much for
Thank you guys for having me.
oh.
Yeah. Well, hey, I want you to stick with us for 2 more minutes.
Yeah, for sure.